Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Hey, before I forget, do not forget, July the 11th through the 13th, Ardmore, Oklahoma, Ardmore Convention Center, Preterist Pilgrim Weekend 2019. Our theme this year is how we know we're not living in the last days. I tell you what, we've got an absolutely great lineup. You don't want to miss this. We're going to have Michael Miano speaking, going to have Rod MacArthur speaking, going to have William Bell speaking. I'll be speaking. You know, this is going to be a great time. Pardon me. You just don't want to miss it. I'm leaving somebody out. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's going to be an absolutely great time. So make your plans to be with us July the 11th through the 13th here at Ardmore, Oklahoma for Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. Okay, we're looking at the concept of the Messianic woes. Jesus, in responding to the disciples' questions about the end of the age and his parousia, said there will be wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, earthquakes, famines. Nations shall rise against nation. And then he said they're going to deliver you up to kings, to councils, to be persecuted. Mark chapter 13, 8 and following. Okay, but Jesus said, but the end is not immediately, Luke's version, but these are the beginning of the birth pangs. Over the last couple of videos, I've been sharing with you the concept of the Messianic woes, the Messianic birth pangs. This is a well-documented, well-attested Bible doctrine. And what you absolutely must catch is the idea that the Messianic birth pains, as I shared with you a couple of days ago, is that the Messianic birth pains were viewed as a time of national judgment. Okay? National judgment. The implications of that are profound. Here are the disciples asking questions about the fall of Jerusalem and the temple, and Jesus responds by a reference to the Messianic birth pangs, which prophetically was always linked to a time of national judgment. Do you see that? So the disciples were not thinking on a, quote, cosmic scale, per se, because they knew and they understood that the Messianic birth pangs was something that was going to be very, very narrow, very focused, and give birth to something that was cosmic and universal. That was the understanding in the Jewish narrative, folks. Okay. As promised, now, first of all, remember what I shared with you yesterday, Isaiah chapter 26. In Isaiah chapter 26, you have the specific reference to Israel being in birth pangs, unable to find deliverance, but the promise of the resurrection as that deliverance. Do you see the power of that? Messianic woes, birth pangs, giving rise to resurrection. That connection is unbreakable. And don't forget, that would take place, that resurrection would take place, pardon me, at the vindication of the martyrs at the day of the Lord. And Jesus said that all of the blood of all of the righteous shed on the earth would be vindicated in his generation at the destruction of Jerusalem. Matthew chapter 23. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the Messianic birth pains would give rise to the resurrection and the kingdom at the judgment of Jerusalem in AD 70, which was the day of the Lord, the resurrection. Now then, in Daniel chapter 12, what do we find? Daniel was given a great vision beginning in chapter 10. going all the way through chapter 12. In chapter 11, verse 30, the period of focus shifts from specifically and almost exclusively from Antiochus Epiphanes to the time of the Roman domination, the rise of the Roman power. We have the ships of Kittim arriving, and they're called the ships of Cyprus in Daniel chapter 12 and verse 30. This is one of the most remarkable events of all of the history of the time. Antiochus Epiphanes had begun the invasion of Egypt. He had come down and arrived at Alexandria. There he was marshaling his forces. He was getting ready to go on a full-blown assault. Well, here's the problem. Egypt was Rome's source of grain. Rome realized, you know what, if this dude named Antiochus Epiphanes, by the way, who had grown up in Rome and who was trained in Rome, if he conquers Egypt, he has us by the throat. We cannot allow that. So they sent a man by the name of Gaius Papilius Aeanus, who had, by the way, been trained with Antiochus Epiphanes, who had become a senator and was now a general. He sails down there and he meets Antiochus Epiphanes on the shores of Alexandria. And Gaius tells Antiochus, you will go no further. Here is the showdown between this conquering Antiochus. No one had been able to stand before him. But now here is Gaius, his former friend, standing in front of him with the Roman army behind him, saying, Antiochus, your days are over. Your dominance is coming to an end. Withdraw. And then Antiochus just did not want to withdraw. That was not in his DNA. He did not want to submit to the dominance of Rome. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. Give me a little bit of time to think about it. Gaius took his sword, drew a circle around Antiochus, and said, you will make your decision before you leave this circle. Oh, wow. Okay. So we have the dominance of Antiochus Epiphanes, confronted by the rising power of Rome. Who now is the focus? Who now is in power? Who now is the prominent power? Antiochus capitulated. He said, I will withdraw. Now, make no mistake about it, he was absolutely enraged. He went back up through Jerusalem, he ravaged the countryside, he desecrated the temple and what have you. But his days were over. We are now in the days of Roman dominance. And that's where we pick up Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. At that time, well, what time are we talking about? The days of Roman dominance that has come to the forefront in Daniel 11:30 and following. Antiochus is now a minor player. While what he did in Jerusalem was awful, the world focus has shifted to Rome and her dominance, her power, her authority. And it would be at that, and by the way, I'm not alone in this. I didn't make this stuff up. This is well attested in scholarly literature. Okay. At that time, Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. There shall be a time of trouble such as never was, since there was a nation even to that time. And at that time your people shall be delivered. Wait a minute. Jesus quotes this verbatim in Matthew 24, 15 through 21. The abomination of desolation, which Daniel mentions in Daniel chapter 12, would be set up, giving rise to the great tribulation, which Jesus said shall be a time of tribulation such as has never been since the foundation of the world. Jesus was applying Daniel chapter 12 emphatically to his time. He wasn't saying, hey, you know, guys, you remember what happened way back in the time of Antiochus? Now, believe me, again, what Antiochus did may very well serve as a type, but Jesus is saying fulfillment was in his generation. Jesus didn't say the Great Tribulation was back there. Jesus said the abomination of desolation would be set up in his generation. Well, guess what? If the Great Tribulation flows out of and is a result of the abomination of desolation, then that means the Great Tribulation was going to be in Jesus' generation. I'm running out of time. My goodness. Okay. So here we have the Great Tribulation. What do we find in verse 2? Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall arise, awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. Tribulation, resurrection. Exactly and precisely as in Isaiah chapter 26. Now, you know what happens here? Men such as Sam Frost, a former preterist, says, well, you know, the time of great tribulation, that was in the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. But verse 2 now, that's the end of time. So Sam Frost goes to the end of verse 1 of Daniel chapter 12. And in the period, at the end of verse 1, he inserts, so far, 2,500 years. Verse 1, Antiochus Epiphanes. Verse 2, end of time. Folks, there's no contextual justification for that. That is pure, simple eisegesis. That is a perversion of the text. Look, I'm out of time. I'll pick up on this and develop Daniel chapter 12 just a little bit further. In the meantime, I discuss it extensively in my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, The Wedding of the King of Kings. There's a banner at the top of my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. If you click on it, you can order this book, regularly $23.95 plus $4.95 shipping. Total delivered price, this does not apply to overseas orders, but total delivered price, $19.95. Order the book. Believe you me, you'll be glad you did. Okay? All right. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll take a deeper look at Daniel chapter 12, tribulation, resurrection, first century fulfillment, AD 70. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you on the flip side.